Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. Cheers, as always. Oh man, oh man, oh man. In this video, I want to talk about correcting the corruption. And it's quite counterintuitive because we're used to correcting things by force of will. And that's, by the way, the red apple symbolism in the Adam and Eve story in the Bible. The symbolism of the red apple is the red torus field, and it happens when you apply the, the backwards inverted energy flow, the will power that is misappropriated. Okay. The thinking is part of it, wanting it, always trying to resolve the problem with your mind. It's all the same energy flow. And it's tricky because being in this world is always going to try to um, pull you back into it, into that stream of thought, create that incoherence inside of you, and then run the code, basically. You see how the machine that's supposed to be a game hijacked, because it's supposed to be a game for the souls, but it became that the game itself is basically dominating um, the players. You know, but there's a way to keep afloat. There's a way to keep calibrating your consciousness. And I'm noticing of what's actually going on with the consciousness, what is required of me in every single point of time. And I'm noticing that it requires a certain type of attention, and that attention changes whenever it's required to be different. That's essentially how I would describe the alchemy. Like, right, if it's in a greater stage and it wants fire, you give it fire. Then you have this other stage where it just wants water, you give it water. It's a type of attention. And then um, next stage, it wants air, you give it air. And the next stage, it wants earth, you give it earth. So you see, of course, these are four types of attentions that you can do, and that's how you essentially calibrate. Lately, for example, it needed a lot of that type of spaciousness, that type of give it space to that energy. But instead, I was applying and kind of revving the fire too much, and then that's not okay. That's not how you make a philosopher's stone, basically, and then it crashes, and then you have to say, okay, what's now? Okay, it was water. You give it water. In other words, chill. It's about right now. It's about chill. Chill will get you there. See, this is why it's such a um, it's such a process that cannot be really uh, m- it's not a cannot be methodified, cannot be thought like that. It has to go through the experience. And this is why I'm learning. This is not in. I'm sure in some ancient books that may have this, but the only person who could understand that is who's already going through it. And I'm just seeing that, okay, you know, if you discover that spaciousness, for example, and then for that particular moment, it's perfect, it works, and it puts you into that everything is amazing state. Then, as the time goes by, the same is not gonna work. And this is what I'm trying to um, master, and teach other people, depending on exactly what is needed in that moment to get into that liminal space. So that's in last video I made a video about talking the joystick and where you actually have a handle on life. Understand? Because there's no security in thought, there's no security in the mind, because mind itself is a process of time. Do you understand? So you almost like a subscribe to the train of thought, and it's running, and it is otherwise known as falling asleep and becoming the Matrix non-player character, right? And so you gotta keep awake. Don't fall asleep. I mean, and notice the things that do make you fall asleep. And I'm noticing on myself what makes me fall asleep. And I've noticed what makes me sometimes fall asleep is that I do have certain type of inappropriate empathy. And just bear with me with this thing, because there is this lack of empathy in a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath, because they um, don't have the feedback, emotional feedback at all, so it doesn't concern them. This is why they're capable of doing all, stupid ass shit, and they are driven, but they're only driven by the pleasure and the pain, and whatever gives them pleasure, they go for it. What gives them pain, they don't, and that's how basic it is, and they are not real. And wanting for them to be real, that empathy is going to be just abused. Understand? It's not going to be thought of like, oh great, this person is showing me some love. No, it's just going to be taken, used against you, and punish you for trusting that, basically. That's just the way it is. That's the fact. And it is a type of uh, vulnerability to the Matrix, you see, because it's not really a true empathy, because it is super gullible and is misappropriated. Okay, the true empathy comes only when you have compassion first. The true empathy can only come when you have compassion first, and compassion is the state of consciousness um, where you may be in the face of that gravity of the Matrix trying to pull you in, but you are stronger to remain in that spaciousness, and it doesn't take you in. You see? And so that's the way the Matrix attacks you. It looks for the weaknesses, and empathy is one of those. And another that I found within myself was that looking for the reason in, I mean, that's probably, a lot of you can relate to that. Looking for the reason and wanting and maybe even demanding the reason within a person that is completely in a programmable state. They're just running the program, and trying to find the reason in a person that is just programmed is another weakness that is going to frustrate you and annoy you. Okay, Matrix, if you've noticed, it's really freaking good about taunting you to make you frustrated and annoyed. But as soon as you're frustrated and annoyed, you're part of it. You see? And as soon as you find yourself frustrated and annoyed, back into the spaciousness. Spaciousness will always be available there at any point you become aware of what just happened. Okay? So it's totally fine. And as soon as you become aware, boom, back. No need for this guilt or anything like that. And nobody got time for that. Goes directly into spaciousness, out of which the compassion will arise. And the compassion is something that happens when something in the Matrix is really trying to pull you in. And compassion is that warm, peaceful bubble that does not let you be tugged in the Matrix. Okay? Hopefully you see what I mean by Matrix. I often use that word, but hopefully you see what I mean by it. I don't mean this imaginary nonsense that some other people may mean, or like what was in a movie. I mean specifically the train of thought and the motion of your consciousness. It's the motion of your consciousness. It really is like, if you look at it, you'll watch it, you'll see it, like it is not moving towards where the attention is supposed to be. It is moving backwards. That's it. And it may be lust, rage, whatever, and Matrix will try to bait you into it. Okay. And every time it's trying to bait you into it, it's taking a risk, because it's betting that it can pull you in. And so it's risking to lose the energy. So when it's attacking you, that is, you got to look at this as like, oh, this is ripe for the alchemy. Because sometimes it's like that, maybe in a good mood, you're just playing with this energy of joy and everything's going great. And then when you pick up the speed where that energy of joy is like, woo, fuck yeah, like really intense, really high frequency, this is where the tests come in. Matrix will react to it, you understand? It's just the way it is. So what is the lesson here? The lesson is not that not to go to this high frequency. Go to that high frequency, stable, with making sure that compassion is strong enough to withhold that. You're gonna need it, right? You don't want to ramp up that frequency too high above the capacity of your chill. You understand? Because if Matrix is gonna find a way of how to ruin that. And when you have that high passion running, and if Matrix can get you aggravated and you had like a wonderful state, if it gets you aggravated and it crashes, it just took your energy. So this is you see, like, it's the war for the energy states, essentially. That's how you have to look at it if you are experiencing what I'm experiencing. So, right? And there might be next week it's asking something different. It's like last week it was asking you a lot of surrender and space, and this week is not asking you for that. That's actually asking you to be a little bit stronger, rigid, more solid. And so you got to know what's required of you, and that's exactly what you give. And that's the card game, essentially. There's 8 card games. The Matrix throw you this card, you got to find the one that works for that to to clear it. Throws this card, you got to find the one that you can clear it, right? And that's essentially alchemy. First order of business. Because whenever you're already playing with that energy of joy, the real passion energy, that's theurgy, because you're already shaping it in a certain geometrical shape to get that particular feeling. Okay? When you're playing theurgy, you need to have it backed up by the alchemy. Honestly, because you can't just go in there, because if you just go in there, that knot poof, comes back online. The ego starts trying to come back online. So rev it up little by little, okay? Little by little. More liminal, more edging. Edging is a great word, because You really are just looking for the edges of this thing that is presented to you to sort of almost complete it. Okay? Because the time fractals, or in this time frame reality, time space reality, or space time reality, it's always running. We're always in time, and it's always affecting us. And so, to play along it, it gives you this particular shape. You gotta resolve that problem, so to speak, by taking the edges of that and fulfilling. And that is just primordial desire for the spirit. You can look at it that way, you know. Okay. And so there's a depth to it too. You can be shallow in time, or you can be deep in time. Okay? To live deep in time, it's very blissful. Okay? But it requires you to have that chill appropriately. You can only go as high as low have you went. Excuse me. Have you went? Okay? Let's look a little bit different in every video. So, you see what's happening? This is where you start with any kind of problem that you have in your life. And that's the way I see it. And so, the other day, revving really high, I could feel it. I could feel that, the matrix is fighting it and not letting for that high vibration to be sustained. And I must find a way to defend it. It's not about that not having that high vibration, which is the best feeling in the world. And that means that you already are deep in time. You understand? That depth is always there. And you can be a little bit less in time or more in time. And I call this, because it requires a deeper connection the deeper you go. Right? This is why on like more of a shallow level, when you don't dig deeper, you can live life without triggering anybody. Understand? You without triggering anybody, and just walk like nothing. And you can even be in a super high frequency, and if your chill is meeting that, you're in this isolated bubble, and you can be in front of people and they're not triggered by you at all. They will not register the super high vibe if they're not there themselves. First of all, they will only see this as just neutrality, so they're not triggered by you. And this is how you function in this world without triggering these people. That's what I'm learning, because I'm learning that, like, okay, I can't just go in public without that, you see, because that triggers people. Now, with some people, they may want to go, deeper. They can actually connect a little bit more, a little bit deeper, more in time, which is, there's more passion there, more fun, more humor, all these other things, right? So I found that there's this first level that I will call it sensual, which is valid to have that connection with everybody. It's a superficial layer of time where you can be immersed and connected with everything around you in a comfy way. It doesn't really matter the depth. Like, if you look deeper perhaps in that person, you'll find that there's a bunch of demons. But you don't go there. You just look on a shallow level, and you can get along with everybody on this shallow level. And because you're there, you still have your energy streaming, and it is slight, very subtle joy. That's what it is. This is a very slight, subtle joy. That type of joy does not trigger in nobody. It's very subtle. but the people will feel a little bit more relaxed, and some people they can only handle that much relaxation. Because if you just go in there a little bit deeper and then start making jokes, and they're gonna go, get, what the fuck is this? Too much joy. So with them, you gotta go a little bit easier. Um, or just sometimes you start off slowly, then there's a ice breaking. Okay, there's humor there, and then the third level I call it romance, and then the fourth level I call it nirvana or ecstasy. That's where you connect at the deepest level, highest form of bliss, and you can connect with other people, just with anybody at that level. And I suspect that at the highest, deepest level, you will only be able to connect with, in the end, with the highest level. You will only gonna be able to connect with one soul in your in your holographic reality. And I think that's how it works. And the more shallower you go, the number increases. The more intense you go, the number decreases. This is why that you know ultimate connection that you have, like your other half, literally, is you know actually your other half. So um, so there's everything is very adequate, because no one will feel, if somebody deserves much stronger connection with you, then that's what they have. If somebody not ready for this, then trying to say, I think it's just naturally structured like that, like almost like a pyramid. And I've noticed that that is the way to interact. um so yeah, and if you consider that the deeper you go, the more risk you're taking for to be taken out by the matrix. But so the the thing is that the point is to live in that high frequency, because when you live in that high frequency, the true high vibration, not the one that induced by the tricks, and all these um, exercises and all this other stuff, not induced by the mind. If a person is like, here's how you raise your vibration, then it's not it, because your vibration rises automatically as you alchemize the energies. It's not going to the vibration. The vibration happens as a consequence of you working with your attention. No tricks, no thoughts, no exercises, just your attention. It's not an exercise. The reason it's not an exercise is because mind can do the exercise, soul cannot. This is why some people don't understand, like, no, but it is an exercise, this is what you do, this, it's one of those tricks. No, if you really look at it, it's not one of those tricks, it's not an exercise. It's how consciousness functions naturally. It's not one of those things, try to do this thing to make it better. It is, no, this is just how it works. Does that make sense? It's like, hey, this is how it works, you can't do any other way, like this is just the way it works. It's not invented by thought. That it is not invented by thought. And so there is a learning curve of how to live in this world, the world of energy, which causes everything else, really. um so sometimes when there is this negative incoherent emotion about something, it could be about one particular thing, right? Zeroing it out is the point, is generally zeroing out, and sometimes it takes time to zero it out, and you really have to sit and find that. It's not, yeah, you see what I'm trying to say? It's almost it does it by itself. It's almost like it does it by itself. You let it take the shape that it needs to take. It's already trying to do that. There's already a motion of consciousness trying to resolve this thing. It's already there. It's not a mind, but it also has a gravity. Just like mind is running, if you give it energy, it is doing its thing. You understand? It already knows how to be the best alchemist possible. You just give it energy, and it's a bit of a like following almost. Right? So you want to sit there, right? You want to sit there. So that is the first way to correct the corruption. Okay? Now, the way the mind and body works, over there in the body, will is necessary to be, you use will to bring it into existence. Okay? For example, like what kind of will it takes if you are astral projecting and you are trying to move yourself from one environment to another. What kind of will it takes? It is not the same will as you trying to lift a heavy weight, right? It's a different one. It is not forced will, but there is this will that's being used in the mind. Okay, and not only in the body, it's becoming clearly that it is mostly resisting against it. In the mind, when you're trying to conjure it up, it is about melting that resistance. You see, all four motions, the alchemy, theurgy, thaumaturgy, physiurgy, the spirit, the soul, the mind, and the body, runs on similar things, but they're applied differently. If the spirit is mostly about spaciousness, surrender, and letting it do, and very mild, you know, directing, then the soul may be sort of like, you know, almost 50-50. Then the mind could be 75-25, right? And then maybe the body would be 100. So that's the thing about the will. And not a forced will at any point. If you force the will, you get into this red zoning. That's the red apple in the Adam and Eve story. Okay? That is biting the fruit of good and evil. It may come up in all sorts of different forms, but it will be you are falling asleep in the matrix. That's pretty much, you are drawing out of the lines. Got to stay within the lines is the game. Okay? So if to alchemize it only requires your attention, then if you're trying to create states of consciousness, it requires intention. It requires a slight degree of will, but that will is very, very minor. You understand? It's almost like a suggestion. It is so not forced. It is only that's required. If you push more energy there, it actually just backfires. It's like, no, it's not. That's not appropriate use of will. You've gotta ease off. Use appropriate degree of will. That's the key of this game. It's not giving up completely, but the understanding is like, hey, you were pushing too much. You were just pushing too much. It's okay to push less and appropriately. Okay, you just gotta, you don't give up. You don't go up and start drawing on the other side of the line, right? No, you gotta stay within the lines. Stay on the road. One is would be like, oh, I'm not using any kind of oil. I fuck everything, and this is what usually is life. Happens life about that. Okay, you push, because you push too much. It did not work out. Then you just go back. Then fuck it, and then you go into the other one, which is no will at all. No, 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 not like that. At any point in time, there's an appropriate degree of will that needs to be used. You see, and if that degree is zero, which often happens in the alchemy, then that degree is zero. Then you're willing nothing there. And so now I'm approaching this conclusion of like the very playing of all the levels and what is actually going to do, what is actually you ought to be doing. And I see that it is a type of energy control. It is a type of energy control. It is about a right degree and right combination of energy streaming at any point in time to complement the challenge, right? And that is that sweet zone, sweet spot. You stay within that, right? But you're moving ahead. You're moving ahead. You stay within that, moving ahead, moving ahead. Okay? And if you're really good, then you can juggle many things and you're still staying at the right liminal space and just cruising. Okay? I really believe it's possible. I'm experimenting with this, and like I said, sometimes I see what happens, how super high vibe, it becomes more difficult to to keep going. And but then it shows me like, oh, you still have this vulnerability here. Okay, okay, let's patch it up. Let's patch it up. Let's patch it up. So patch it up, and the next time you say, I can go higher. So the game is, if you play and if you don't go off the lines and you know exactly what to use, what kind of energy at any point in time, and that is with everything, guys. This is like, it's not just the spirit, soul, mind, it is body too. It's also applying right amount of energy on all the things that need to be applied without forcing it, but without being lazy. It's a rightness. It's this, and there's this space that you can walk through life seemingly untouchable because you are untouchable, and everything works out in all four layers, and you're not neglecting any of them. The physical is fine, the mind is fine, the soul is fine, and the spirit is fine. And each one, it will require of you to master it based on what kind of energy state is required of you. It really is a bit of like a card game. It throws you this combination, what kind of combination can beat it? And so it is like that, but with your energy. You just have to detect exactly what is needed of you at that particular time, which is the opposite of what ego says. If ego is not asking what is required of me right now, ego is asking what the fuck do I need. You see, so it flips the opposite. This is why it's not egocentric, and therefore there's no it's not center driven. Your center becomes a a consequence of you not steering off the lines, and that vibration keeps going and going and going, going. And if you can keep going and don't steer up the lines on a high level intensity, then you're good. Now you're living at the really deepest level of time space and kicking ass, and that's the point. And if you're when you're there, then you are um, creating the highest possible influence on the matrix itself. And you know what happens? I'll tell you what happens. One of the things that people oversee is that the belief that they hold is temporary. All beliefs are temporary, first of all. What does that mean? That means that there's a new information may come in and negate your belief completely. One of those beliefs, for example, that narcissists do not have any kind of empathy and they're sort of like 100% ego, right? That's the thing. This is why they just go for pleasure, and the highest form of evil is the highest form of hedonistic pleasure. And so when they do something like abusing the innocence at the highest form of level, or even desecrating life itself or the innocence itself, that's, you see, that's the highest psychopath, satanic person. That's just basically pure, almost pure devil, right? So when you have that, the idea is that, like, oh, they're like that. No, it's not true. They're running on this dark passion, but the more you're running on the light passion, the less dark passion they have, the less influence they have, right? And so they try to pull you into the matrix, and you trying to pull them in the matrix and make them responsible, because matrix will create the feedback for them, and they will feel everything. They will feel the pain that they're inflicting on other people immediately. Okay? And so that is how you hold these evil people accountable, is by you going in deeper and deeper in the intensity of life, of that bliss energy, and sustaining it. That's your goal. You see, in whatever it takes, whatever that energy management calibration it takes, that's the point. This is the game, 100% sure. I could not find any other way. And as you can see, it's always showing itself to me, but what I'm observing is unchangeable. It's not a matter of thought. This is something like it's structured in as consciousness, as a root of consciousness, as a key of consciousness, right? So that's, at least that's the point. Now, how it works, and for example, what kind of vibration, what kind of feeling correspond to what kind of geometry and all this, in the cymatics, that's so fascinating stuff, and I would like to study someday. But we don't have to know exactly how it works for it to work, to know that the point is to go deep in time and still remain in the infinite. That's the point of the game. Okay? It's not visible. It's feelable though. Okay? So my challenge was how to keep the high vibe in like demonic environments, and the answer to that, I found out that there's like lots of peace energy, like you pour on thick, and then it doesn't touch them. They can't do it even, you understand, like they try to be, send you like bad energy or whatever, and just, it's just nope, there's no conduction there. So yeah, so you don't avoid people, even like the darkest people. You chill, and you connect with them at the superficial level, you understand, like they could be the demon, the devil himself, but on a superficial level you can still be reasonable human being and completely not triggered by them, or trigger them and do whatever it needs to be done, they interact at that superficial level. Then you can feel the energy, you say, okay, that's freaking demon right here. But you can say, hey, hi, have a good time, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you don't have to be authentic with them, because that will make you lose the bliss, the vibration, the ecstasy, the light, the real light energy, not the false one, not this, acquired through vanity and desecration of things. So, but you don't need to worry about them. You don't need to worry about narcissists and things like that. You will pull them into the matrix and you will put them through the grinding machine where they will learn. They will say, "Oh, I can't do this because it hurts me." So you take him to school, right? And you take him to school by keeping this vibration high, this high energy. Okay, by alchemizing, by playing with those energies for real, no gimming. Because if you don't, and the test comes in deep one, then the only way your mind will be able to handle is to create a state of psychosis. And you don't want to do that. So you better learn how to calibrate in a way that works, and book a session with me. Shameless plug. But for realsies, consciousness calibration, book a session. Bye now. Anyway, so that's how you correct the corruption for real. Okay. Um, the way it works in the mind and the way it works in the body, most of the time we kind of already know, and it's quite straightforward. Um, Imagination does work. It does require a certain degree of intent and will, and adequate, not too much, not too little, exactly as is required. For example, astral projection. If you give too much intent, it's not working. If you slack off, it's not working either. You gotta give the right amount intent of calibrating that energy, calibrating the mind, calibrating that state until it tunes you into the astral. It's a type of another calibration, but in the mind. You see, it's it's how it works over there. Um, and then there's something that to do in the soul. There's something to do in the mind, and there's something to do in the body. And if you do this, this is the real secret. You're not gonna have any kind of problems because you'll be like, okay, okay, now I need to use that amount of energy for this particular task. Okay, and you use that. You don't push it. You don't slack it. You'll notice, and it's just going well because there might be like a resistance to it at first because you know you see, and this is how you actually do it with no tricks. You don't need no tricks. You can do it all yourself. Like, okay, you gotta do this thing, but when you think about it, it's like, I don't really want to, right? Okay, then there's too much of the intent, too much force has been applied. So you're like, ease off a little bit. Say, oh, how much of the willpower would I give? Like, how much of the energy am I willing to give? Say, well, okay, I'm willing to, open up a page and name it and give it a title. Okay, then do that, right? And then the next day or whenever it's time, okay, how much am I willing to give today? That much. Okay, fine. You see? And you don't give more than it's required, and you don't give less than it's required. And so you always stay in that zone. And that is the same principle on all four levels: the spirit, soul, mind, and body. It's the same principle. And so I want to get to the point where I'm always aware of the principle in action on all the levels. What is happening here within the physical reality? What is happening there in mind reality? What is happening in the soul reality? What's happening in spirit reality? And so I know it may seem like, wow, that seems like a lot. but it's not a lot when you know how to play it and how to actually do it. And because when you have to play 4 games at the same time and you don't know how to play them, that would be very difficult. But when you do know how to play them, you make a move here and you have time to make moves here, make a move here, make a move here, make a move here. And so you make those appropriate moves that are grandmaster moves. And if there is a way to master this game of life, this is it. The other thing is to actually master it. That is the other thing. But to be in a position to know the principle of how it can even be possible, that gives you like a lot of, you know, it cuts off all the noise. You say, okay, well, I'm not going to do anything else besides this principle because that's the only thing that is going to give me the results. And it works this way, spirit, and you figure it out, and it's like, oh, I see how it all works. It's like, it's just asking me this mixed of that energy. It's not asking me one or the other. It's neither 1 or 0. It's just asking me like the right amount of it. And then you figure it out. It's like, oh, wow. Then you also see there's like, oh my God, I know why it's so fucking difficult. Because it's so liminal. It is for somebody who really can find that space and let go of the mind. And I crashed, for example, this week. I can tell you that I crashed because I pushed a little bit too much. But I can reel back in and go at the pace that I can juggle. Okay? I really, really want to send this message because I'm excited to do this myself. I'm already doing it. I'm realizing how it actually is the same principle in all these other worlds of life. It's not negating anything. It's not saying like, oh, you just sit on your ass and imagine and everything's going to happen. It's not negating the physical reality. It's saying that like, oh, there's certain magic you got to do in physical. There's certain magic you got to do in astral. There's certain magic you got to do in causal, and then certain magic you got to do in spiritual. And you play it, and no tricks, no tricks. It's the same for everybody. The joystick is the same for everybody. And for the woman, is going to be asking more of the surrender throughout the whole game. And for the man, is going to be asking more of the courage throughout the whole game. Because gender determines whether we are trying to tune ourselves for love or for wisdom. It's determined by your gender, your true incarnation gender. It is not how people say like a hermaphroditic. It's like you neither this, neither that. There's a state of consciousness of union, yes, when you neither this, neither that. But that happens to you when you're at the highest point of masculinity, if you're a man, or the highest point of femininity, if you're a woman. And when I say the highest point, it's the highest point of combination. It's the right combination, like 80% masculine and 20% feminine. That's the most masculine that you can be. Anything more than that, it breaks the principle, and now you're becoming a tyrant. You see? So you've got to really, and the same thing with the woman. She goes way too much feminine, then you just doesn't, it gets into despair and all this, the other side that is not right. So you want to keep on weaving the rainbow non-stop on all of those 4 levels. And you can't neglect any of them. Yeah, you cannot. You gotta play right in all of them. And that is how you actually get what you want, but not through the ego. because you get what you want as an emergent property. Okay. And it's fascinating. And it's not saying that it's just going to happen by itself either. It's saying no, a right amount and right mixture of energy is okay. It's exactly of how much you need to use it. Um, and for some reason, things working out because you hit that the way of life. You hit that Tao, as people call it. See, this is like it's been misrepresented what the Tao really is. Tao is not something that like it's just happening without you doing anything, right? That's how it's presented. Oh, it's just the order of things. But it implies you having to be part of it. And so it requires a certain type of motion from you to stay in it. It's if you don't do this, you are not part of Tao. You got to be surfing the waves to be surfing. You can't just stand on a surfing board and just say, "Well, let the wave do everything for me." No, because of course that's not going to work. You're just going to go and fail, because that's arrogance. That's saying that I don't have to do anything and everything is given to me, right? So there's this. You can go either this one line out or the other line out, or rather like way too rigid or way too flexible. It has to be the right amount on all the levels. Now use it and see how it all responds. Don't use like the soul reality as something like, well, I've been doing all these beautiful feelings I'm exploring and it's all awesome. I want them to be coming in the physical reality. No, that's again, you're just sliding off of it. You say, what can I do in the physical reality that is required of me? Oh, that's what's required of me in the physical reality. You do those things that's required of you in the physical reality. Okay? You're not asking for the astral reality to compensate for the physical. That is lunacy. And that's another way of the Matrix tricks you into, pulls you in. And says like, oh, you can be completely lazy. It's okay. You don't have to do anything physical. It's just coming in your mail, you know? All these checks will just be coming in your mail, bro. Trust me, bro. No, it won't. It may happen like one occasion because you were just maybe backed up in the astral and you never really given energy there, but now you gave a little bit of energy there, and so there's things that are moving in the physical, but it doesn't mean that you don't do anything in the physical. You're still going to have to take action in the physical that is exactly required of you. And the secret of life is that the spiritual, the causal, the astral, and the physical, they all already asking of you in every particular moment of time to respond to it in the appropriate way. And what I mean by that is that desire is already built in. There's no such thing as thinking of what do I want. It is already given to you. All right, in physical, you gotta go buy some food. That's the desire given to you already. All right, you play there. What's in the astral is given. What kind of desire is given in the astral? Oh, there's a lot of past memories that are running over there, and they still hold some charge there. Let me just zero them out. Zero them out, and so okay, what kind of desire was actually there? And you imagine the opposite. So okay, so you did the work there. And in the causal, there might be, like a bit of an off feeling there, that may want some, joy or whatnot to stream. So you respond to it there. But usually what happens is it goes like this: first the spirit, the causal, the astral, and the physical. It goes like this perpetually, but perpetually increasing itself in the coherence, toroidal field. Okay, keeps doing that. And there's 4 games of life. I used to think it's 3, but there's 4. And there's also 4 levels. Don't quote me on this, but there's 4 levels of time. I've noticed you can go deeper and deeper in time, and the deeper in time you go, the more challenging it is. This is why something, for example, when in a relationship, if you connect with somebody and you connect on like a really deep level, then that may trigger a lot, like all sorts of things. It's because you're going really deep, and so then all the stuff starts coming out. You know. So don't go, you know, go to the level that is appropriate. As always going to be the same answer. What do I do in the physical? Find out what's required of you in that particular moment and do it with the right amount of energy. You know? And in the soul would be responsibilities to enjoy the senses. And because watching something and you moving around you and you moving through it, like all these changing pixels, you can feel them with your soul as feelings as well. It's called, direct enjoyment. And in the mind, they may be asking you of imagining something, whatever you want, like, in the mind, be like, oh, I would like my life to look like that. So you give energy, appropriate amount of energy, in a perfect mixture, in every particular situation. And so that's where my focus in right now. And I know that nothing outside of this is useful. And so that will allow me to really let go of anything else that is not a control or a joystick of life, and put all my energy on what it is. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Because I do feel like when you figure that out, you figure out how to play the game. And then you overcome the challenge of life. And that's my goal. Overcoming the challenge of life. Correcting the corruption. It's always going to be like this. It's a correction within the spirit, correction within the soul, correction within the mind, and correction within the body. I know it may kind of be disappointing. It's like, oh my God, it sounds like a lot of work, but I can tell you that it's not a lot of work, and it's the most enjoyable thing that you can do, and you're going to be living life through with a sly smile. Okay, because the bodily concerns are going to be taken care of. The mind concerns are going to be taken care of. The soul concerns are going to be taken care of, and the spirit concerns are going to be taken care of. And when you take care of the spirit concerns, it's very easy with the soul. If you take care of the soul concerns, it's very easy with the mind. And if you take care of the mind, it's very easy with the body. You get the point, right? But you're not. It's a holistic approach, and it's the holistic view of life. You're not skipping anything, and you're not being one camper. You're not saying that, oh no, everything is just about just the will, and you just keep on doing it over and over again and hammering like this blind hammer, and it's going to work, right? No, it's way too much energy there. It's brute forcing, and it's not going to work. And even if you do have success, your relationship is going to be out of whack and all these other things, right? No. And then you don't have these people who just discovered the astral world. It's like, oh, everything is astral now. Everything is astral, No, not everything is astral. It's only the chunk of the entire consciousness is astral. So, don't fall asleep there and neglect your bodily, needs and desires and stuff like that. Or forget that you even have a soul, because in the mind, usually the trap is like, well, now I can have anything I want. Yeah, that's the thing with the astral travelers. This is why they want it, that's why they're so excited. It's like, oh yeah, show me how to get out, so that I can, we still have ego, but like, oh, I can do all this mischief in astral now. And again, I'm not saying, I'm not judging, I'm just saying that um, that's what people are trying to use astral for. But if you take care of the spirit, soul, mind, and body, everything's going to be all right. You're not pushing anything away. And if you're in the spirit, and if it's all about mystery, and then you're just going to be philosophizing over and over, saying shit over and over again, and not really moving ahead. And so that you're going to become a philosopher, also not. And some people, maybe it's all about your inner child, and it's all about healing your inner child. And just they could just keep obsessing over that, and not looking at anything else. No, you got to look at it at the whole thing, play the whole game, or you're going to get out of equilibrium. And you will be wondering, well, I'm doing so much work over here, why am I not getting results? It's because it is probably you're not extending all of your attention and energy in appropriate degrees to all questions that have been asked of you in all 4 levels. So ask yourself, what is the situation requires of me? And funnily enough, that is how to play the game in the best way, and also the most enjoyable, most responsible too. The true responsibility is this: it is responding to the physical needs and desires, responding to the astral needs of desires, responding to the causal needs of desires, and responding to spiritual needs and desires. The end. Okay, guys? Book a session. So this is basically, I'm laying out the game. No tricks, nothing. This is the game. And let's play, and let's see how far it will get us. Okay? I'm excited to see it for myself, like what I can do with my own life, and the people who are part of this renaissance as well. It's boss. It's definitely boss. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.